The ending of Attack on Titan was either great or complete garbage. I'm going to tell you how the ending divided the community into two groups, and how the author went into depression after the end of the manga. And I'm also going to show you an alternative ending made by fans who were disappointed by the story and decided to create a more satisfying one. The ending has shattered the fandom in half. On one hand, those who are satisfied with this conclusion, and on the other one, those who are disappointed. Let's begin with this unnecessary scene. After Armin explodes Eren's insides out, the centipede unleashes a gas to transform all aliens into the regular Titans. It's a quick way to announce that Jean and Connie will turn into Titans out of nowhere, and unless they eat a Titan shifter, they are basically dead. But the worst thing is that they don't actually die. Fake deaths are controversial and for good reason. The deaths of characters can and should have a narrative purpose, but if they don't really die, then it's worth nothing. Nothing was accomplished or lost. The story could have remained the same if it had not happened. We were just tricked into feeling sad for the deaths of the characters we love, just to feel relieved when they turn back into humans. Then some parts of the story just feel incomplete. We didn't see what happened to the centipede after Eren's death. What about Ymir and how did she die? Did it evaporate? Did she just vanish from existence? The rumbling also feels incomplete, as Eren only erased 80% of humanity. A lot of people wanted to see the full rumbling, killing 99% of the population. Something that people did not like about the ending was how confusing it was. For instance, it's not clear who or what the fighting titan was. Was it the centipede thing or was it Ymir? Maybe it's a fusion of both, since they did kind of fuse in the tree. It's important to know who has the founding titan's powers because of this scene. After Eren gets his head destroyed, the centipede is ejected from him. Yet he's still alive and has transformed into a colossal titan. But it shouldn't be possible, as Armin has the colossal titan, and the centipede is out there, so Eren does not have the founding titan. So how can he transform? I guess he still has his powers and can transform even without the centipede. I'll answer why later in the video. Next we have the reason why Ymir obeyed King Fritz. Ymir having Stockholm Syndrome pissed off a lot of fans. This was one of the weirdest explanations for why she was a slave for 2000 years. First off, this is not how it works. She didn't build any emotional bonds with him. And even then, you'd think that you would get over it after living more than 25 lifespans. Also, people did not like Ymir choosing Mikasa to free her and not Eren. Though you could argue that the comparison with Mikasa and Ymir was well done. Mikasa was never a slave to love and always followed her own path, the exact opposite of Ymir. Okay, so that's pretty good, but why did we have weird necrophilia at the end? And then there were a lot of convenient events. The anti-Eren side had insane luck in the final battle. Miraculously, no one died. They were able to defeat Eren, a godlike being, with no deaths on their side. I'll talk about why and how they had plot armor later in the video. They needed to get to Eren's head with a plane, but they lost it when reaching their destination. When they were on the verge of death, Falco appeared out of nowhere with a flying titan. He's the very first one to have this ability, and it's super useful to fight Eren at this time of the story. Convenient, right? Armin gets kidnapped by a funny-looking titan, but he's not killed, though he's a greater threat to Eren. Somehow, being knocked out also means that you are in the path. So he's able to speak to Zeke and create a rebellion with the previous titan shifters. Armin using Talk no Jutsu to convince Zeke also seems to be too easy. It should have been more difficult, as it led to major events like the end of the rumbling and Armin blowing Eren. After Zeke gets out of the path, he is almost immediately killed by Levi. And then, for a strange reason, the rumbling stops. You might say that Eren needs to touch someone who has royal blood to activate the founding titan's powers. But this restriction was lifted when he freed Ymir from her chains. So why did the rumbling stop then? While some people say that it is a plot hole, there might be something else. In order to be connected to Ymir, Eren needs Zeke for his royal blood because it is a biological requirement. Even if Ymir stopped being a slave, control of the rumbling was created that way, and it cannot be changed. Just like a new homeowner still needs the existing keys to enter a house, Eren still needs Zeke's royal blood to connect with Ymir, regardless of her status. That's just how it works, and that's why the rumbling stopped when Zeke died. It also explains the controversial point earlier, when Eren transformed into a colossal titan. He didn't lose all the powers of the founding titan, but only the most powerful ones. Now onto the funniest controversy I've seen so far. The series has a lot of birds, representing freedom. The ability to fly is the ability to get rid of your chains from the ground, like a prisoner becoming free after breaking off his chains. And who can fly? Birds. Not this one. Not this one either. What the frick is that? Yes, like this one. Eren has always dreamed of freedom from his youngest age, but the most important day of his life was when he saw the future while kissing Historia's hand. He was revealed the shocking truth. He's a bird. That's right, that's Eren's final form. You don't believe me? There was even a hint in the official anime posters. There, you see? Also, at the end of the anime, a bird covers Mikasa with her scarf, Eren's gift. Maybe you will tell me that it's just a coincidence, but then what about this? People have actually managed to find out what kind of bird it is. It's called a parasitic Jäger, and there you have it. It's irrefutable now. Judging from your reaction, you probably did not see it coming, and so were other viewers after seeing the ending. Look at this poll I found on Reddit. They painfully agreed that Eren is a bird. Please tell me, do you believe Eren has truly reincarnated into a bird, or is it only symbolic? I think it's kind of poetic that he found freedom that way. Next, let's see the reason why Eren did the rumbling. There are actually three. The very first one is that he saw himself doing it in the future. I'll talk about this point later in the video, but free will does not exist in Attack on Titan. He couldn't go against his vision, so he had to start the rumbling. The second one is that upon discovering there were people outside the walls, his image of the world changed. His dream was to go on an adventure outside with Armin and discover the beautiful emptiness of the world. The cognitive dissonance was so strong that he started hating that there were other people, and thus the feeling of emptying the world became one of his motivations. He couldn't really explain it, but Armin understood what he meant during their conversation. He realized that he gave Eren the idea of an empty world outside, and that he has his share of responsibilities in the rumbling. The last reason was to protect Paradis from a devastating war, so striking them before they did fight or die was definitely an option. But more than Paradis, he actually wanted his friends to be safe. His plan was to become an apocalyptic menace for the entire world, and then they would become heroes after defeating him. The world would see that peace is possible between the two people, and no conflicts would arise ever again. That's Eren's very optimistic plan, because destroying 80% of humanity would leave permanent scars on the world. The remaining 20% will always fear and seek revenge on Paradis. How can a plan like this work? Also, this is not like Code Geass, where Lelouch dies in front of everyone in 4K. The fight versus Eren was seen by 200 people at best from far away. You're going to tell me that everyone saw the Titan stop moving all around the world. That's right, but they couldn't see who did that, and might not believe that Eldians helped them. But it worked, since Armin and the others became peace ambassadors from Marley to Paradis. Following this topic, let's have a look at the results of the rumbling. By destroying so many lives, Eren made sure that the conflicts with Paradis and the world would be unavoidable. Paradis gets destroyed in the end. So was everything in vain? Not really, as he brought peace for hundreds or even thousands of years before Paradis was destroyed. We could see the city grow from a little town to a modern city with skyscrapers to a super futuristic society. After this long, humans might have forgotten about the rumbling. His friends lived long lives after his death, so Eren's plan did not fail despite the heavy cost. But what about this last scene? The boy is clearly going to enter the tree. If he becomes the new Ymir, then everything was in vain because it will happen all over again. Yes, but let's take a closer look. This boy is exploring the ruins accompanied with his dog, and he's doing this on his own. The tree looks magnificent, and the atmosphere feels peaceful. Ymir was fleeing from King Fritz after being wounded. Scared, she had no choice to enter this terrifying tree. Can you see the difference between the two? The situations are completely different, so who knows what will happen? But it feels like it was way too easy to give Eren a redemption port. He's the most horrible mass murderer in history, and yet his friends have sympathy because he did that for them? The story might have been more interesting if Eren remained the villain. Someone who is willing to do unspeakable horrors because he thinks he's right. Corrupted by power and his extreme reasoning, he went too far and was unable to be saved. Instead, we got the not-so-villain Eren, a stupid teen who took the worst decisions. He was always an ally since the beginning, believed in his friends, and wanted Mikasa to be sad after his death. It's pathetic. But if he was on their side all along, why did they fight him? He could have surrendered to Armin and Mikasa, let them kill him and become the heroes of the world. It makes no sense that he tried to kill them, but he didn't try and he never did. Eren was basically a god. He had many opportunities to win, but he spared his friends because he wanted them to live, thus giving them plot armor. Finally, we have the most controversial point of the ending. Why did Eren not change the future? It is revealed that he was able to see past, present, and future at the same time. He's basically an omniscient god. He was able to redirect the Smiling Titan from Bertolt to his mother. Which was a weird choice, by the way, because he could have redirected her backwards or something. But let's say that he needed his young self to feel hatred towards Titans, so his mother had to die. The most important thing is that he can change events from the past. How was killing 80% of humanity the best choice? How did he not see his future mistakes and correct them? This power can break the whole universe, and the only reason that it did not is that Eren is stupid. Or it's because the idea of free will does not exist in Attack on Titan. Eren had to follow the future because he couldn't go against it. He was a slave to freedom and would never be able to obtain it unless the founding Titan was defeated. It led to the destruction of the path, and with no one to see the future can be anything. There is no longer a destiny that can't be changed. I like to say things like this. In quantum mechanics, there is an interesting phenomenon whether you are observing an electron or not. I won't go into details, but you just have to know this. In experiment A, we are looking at the electrons and it gives this image as a result. In experiment B, we did not look at them and we have this image instead. What we can understand from this is that when under observation, electrons are forced to behave in a way that they would not if they were not observed. So seeing the future is exactly the same. When Eren saw the future, he was forced to behave the way he did to produce that future. With the end of the founding Titan, the ability to see the future is lost, and free will is now possible. Now let's talk about how the author went into depression after writing the ending. In the manga, Attack on Titan's ending was even more controversial than what we've seen so far in the video. There were fewer scenes and explanations, and most importantly, Armin almost says thanks for killing all of these guys for us, Eren. It was so weird and out of character. The majority of the fans were not satisfied with his conclusion. And from this point on, the criticisms flooded Isayama. But even worse than this are the fans who became antis and started to harass the mangaka. On top of seeing people bashing his story, criticizing his ending, making up things like Isayama clearly hates Eren, he also had to deal with insults and death threats. Not liking a story and criticizing it is fair enough. Feeling enraged that your favorite manga ends terribly is acceptable. But passion can turn into hatred, and the harassment the author endured was awful. And kept going on for weeks. To add salt to the injury, there was even a petition to change the ending. Isayama did not foresee the situation and suffered a lot from the online harassment and the disappointment of his fans. Several months after releasing the end of the story, he receives a letter. He is invited to the US for an anime convention, Anime NYC. He deeply considers the author. He knows the ending is very unpopular, and he doesn't want people to roast him IRL. The online harassment is already hard to pull through. Maybe the convention will be fine if I ask people to be nice, he thinks. And so he sends a special message on Twitter. I am aware that the ending of Attack on Titan was controversial. However, I would appreciate it if you'd be kind to me. He declares that he feels hopeful, yet anxious, at the idea of meeting his fans at the convention. This message does not go under the radar and starts a controversy. Between the insults and the criticisms he often receives, there are also people defending him. Alright, let's go to New York then, he says. It's D-Day for Hajime Isayama. On his very first trip to the US, he's going to face hundreds of fans. He's excited, but still anxious. A lot of questions are racing through his mind. What if people are not nice to me? Will they crucify me for ending the story like that? Did they like Eren turning into a bird? Okay, he probably did not think about that one. He makes up his mind and heads to the convention. On the first day, things did not happen how he thought they would. During the fan signing, he was able to meet people who told him his ending was great and that they loved it. Surprised, he finally felt happy again after a long time of depression. On the last day, he made an apology with teary eyes. I want to express my gratitude to all the fans. I wasn't sure how to feel about the end of the story. The fans told me the ending was great and they loved it. And it made me happy. And coming to New York was a great experience for me. For the very last episode of the anime, Isayama wrote 8 extra pages, a new script to slightly change the ending, mostly correcting clumsy parts of the story and adding new scenes. Even though the ending in the anime has received a lot of criticism, the majority of people liked it. When you compare the reactions of fans of the manga's ending to the anime's ending, there's a huge gap. Maybe it was the slight changes the author made for the anime. Finally, you should know that Isayama revealed at Anime NYC that he is not planning any new manga for the moment. Let's hope that Attack on Titan is not his final work and that he will come back when he feels better. Before we move on to the last point, subscribe to my channel and become one of the first colossal pillar of my community. Now, I told you at the beginning of the video that I would show you an alternative ending made by fans who were disappointed by the story. I have good news for both manga and anime fans. The most popular fanfiction is called Attack on Titan no Requiem. Following the events of the first 136 chapters, it is a rewrite of the last 3 chapters exploring an alternate ending. Reading these chapters with ambient music was pretty cool, and I encourage you to do the same. The team out near received a lot of hate messages and death threats for doing this project. It shouldn't be seen as disrespectful to the author, but simply as an alternative made by enthusiast fans. It's just a fanfiction after all. They worked really hard on this project, so you should check out their work. Also, the studio Eclipse will be animating Attack on Titan no Requiem. They announced a trailer and will air in fall 2024. We didn't see much, but I'm looking forward to see what fans can do. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. If you made it this far into the video, you probably like well-written stories. But you might have missed this new Netflix banger anime called Pluto. If you're interested in knowing more about it, I have made a spoiler-free review in this video.